Hello there, my name is Dave Hyder. I work for an organisation called MindGap, which is a leadership development organisation, and I'm just going to take about 20 minutes to introduce the Thomas International Personality Profile Analysis, the PPA. I'm just going to take these moments to explain to you the shape and structure of the analysis, and then I'll be meeting with you either online or face-to-face to talk through your specific report. It's good to connect with you. It may be that you are about to join an organisation that I'm contracted with to deliver these PPA psychometrics. It may be that you've worked for the organisation for years. It may be that you've been asked to do this test as part of team development. Various different people that I connect with at various different stages of the onboarding and their career process. But I look forward to just introducing this short analysis to you. As I say, I lead a business development company called MindGap, and we work on leadership. We deliver training, coaching, psychometrics, a whole range of different products to help people fill the gaps in their minds between what they don't know, what they need to know. And we help them bridge that gap into good knowledge, skills and behaviours going forward, particularly around the space of leadership development. So just a slide to start to introduce the PPA to you. As I say, it's delivered by a company called Thomas International. There's their website. You can have a look at them. Thomas International are a global organisation. They're working in education, in sport, in business, in a variety of different companies. And they have a suite of psychometric tests that measure all sorts of different indicators. There's some that measure skills and time, more of a kind of a Mensa type test that's academic related. Some tests that are regards emotional intelligence and measure states of well-being and happiness and emotional regulation and other complex areas like that. But this test that we're using today is called the Personality Profile Analysis, the PPA, I'll refer to it as. And it measures 4 different areas that you can see on the right hand side here. It's called a DISC profile, and DISC is used in a variety of other psychometric tests. You may have come across Insights, for instance, which spills out its results in colours, red and green and so on. Using the same roots of DISC, but it uses it in a different format, more visual, more colour orientated. Thomas International used DISC and used the letters DISC, which, as you can see in the red lettering, stands for these 4 different indicators that we're going to be looking at you through the lens of. First of all, this test is going to measure your dominance, levels of dominance. Secondly, it's going to measure levels of influence, people skills. You can see the word above there. Thirdly, steadiness. This is measuring your pace. And fourthly, compliance or control. So let me just quickly explain those for you. Dominance, you can see if you're a high dominant person, you'll be getting a dot somewhere on this axis, on this line on the D. And if you're a high dominant person, you'd be displaying some of these characteristics at the top. The higher we go into the blue band at the top, into results focused, the more dominant we become, the more assertive, competitive, forceful we become. If we're below the line, however, we'd be a lot more accommodating, hesitant, low need. People who kind of keep their heads below the parapet, they tend to be followers rather than leaders, whereas the high Ds are very strong followers. And as I say, the higher up we go, the more dominant and assertive and maybe neurocratic people become, leaders become potentially. So we're going to be measuring your levels of dominance. So I wonder whether or where you would put your dots on this line as to where you would rate yourself in terms of dominance. Above the line means that it's a strong, evident characteristic. Below the line, what we call a supporting characteristic, almost like the roots and the shoots of a plant or a tree. Things that we can see very evidently up the top and supporting factors down the bottom. Secondly, the I, we're going to be measuring levels of influence, and this is people skills now. So high I's, you can see the words here, tend to be extroverted. They're very good with their words, communicative, friendly, real networkers, very persuasive. The high I's, very people driven, life and soul of the party. The higher we get to the people relationships, blue band at the top here, they really draw their energy from people. Whereas low I's are more introverted, more thoughtful, reflective, probing, sometimes critical, those low I's. They enjoy things rather than people, and they enjoy their own space in their own company, whereas the high I's tend to draw their energy from people. Where would you put your dots on the line? What do you think the results are going to be when I meet with you soon to go through your report? Thirdly, steadiness. This is about the pace. This is not so much how fast you work, but it's more about your internal pace. Do you find it easy to slow down? What do you like in terms of an internal pace? Are you fast-paced, active, restless down the bottom here, mobile, need variety, moving from task to task? Or are you above the line, slow, systematic, methodical, steady? You can see there's some good people words in there. High S's tend to be good listeners and trustworthy, reliable, dependent. The low S's are just moving about like headless chickens. The lower we go down to the S. Nothing wrong with either side in any of these, but just different. Finally, fourthly, control. High C's then, you can see the words. They tend to be logic driven, thoughtful, perfectionist, precise, systematic. As we go up to the blue line at the top here, maybe quite obsessive about that control and that perfectionist state. Is that you? Or are you more low C? More heartfelt driven, gut feel driven, firm, independent, stubborn. My opinion matters, whereas above the line it's policy that matters, it's rules that matter. Low C's are opinion driven, high C's are policy or rules driven. So that's the DISC profile: dominance, influence, steadiness and compliance or control. So I'd like you just to take a moment to pause the video and draw what you think your shape is going to be when it comes through to you just in a second. Okay, so welcome back to the video. So I've explained to you the DISC profile and what it means, developed by a psychologist called William Marston in the 1920s. This test is really super robust. It's been validated by a whole series of different psychological institutions. I can tell you those, share some information, some research on that if you want to see that. But it's been heavily validated and almost has got to the stage now where we're measuring human behaviours as well as potentially we're ever going to measure them. Most importantly, it's validated by dozens of people that I meet that say, how on earth has it got that accurate insight into me in 10 to 15 minutes? That's the most important validation for me. It's about a 10-minute test and it probably would have confused you. It confuses most people. They're sometimes not sure of what the words mean. Sometimes people have to get Google out and translate what the words are. But it's also difficult. We're forcing you to make a choice between two particular words, more than, less than. And it's quite a confusing test, but trust me, the test is robust, and what sits behind the test is the computer that's pulling your answers together and then applying a suite of psychologically informed algorithms over the top of your answers to try and work out and interpret who it is that you are. It's going to look at you through three different perspectives. So we use DISC as the framework, but it looks at you using DISC through effectively three different windows. It looks at your self-image. This is the maybe 70-80% core personality, who we really are, the bit that doesn't really change. It's the same inside and outside of work. It's who you are at your most relaxed. That's what we call self-image. The second perspective it's going to look in you at is work mask. Are you different when you come to work? Are you the same outside of work and inside of work? Do you wear what we call a work mask? Do you change when you're at work? And thirdly, the analysis is going to look at you through the lens of under pressure. So when you're under pressure, does your dominance go up or down? Do you become more or less people orientated, you speed up or slow down, and you become more opinion driven or logical driven. So 3 different perspectives that we're going to have a look at, and you'll see those perspectives in shapes just in a second. I've described the line in the middle and how important that is. If your dot is below the line, then it's a supporting, quieter characteristic. If it's above the line, it's a strength, and what we call a working strength above the line. Very evident. You would see that in the room with this person. And it's very important to understand that this is just about opening your window. It's about not good nor bad. It's just about mirroring back what we think your personality is, so that you can take that snapshot for now and you can develop yourself into what you want to be, or how you want to tweak and change your personality, as it were, if that makes sense. And we use this in interviewing, in building stronger teams, onboarding processes, a whole variety of different contexts that this test is shown. So this is the kind of thing that you're going to get in your report, a lot more complex than this. It's going to give you this view. It's an unfiltered view. This is a computer algorithm driven report. It's not going to pull any punches. It's going to say what it sees and picks up. And sometimes the wording is quite challenging within our psychometric tests. So it's unfiltered and it feeds back. You don't have to agree with it. It's just about giving you a window and a mirror back into what it thinks you are. And it's for you to agree or disagree and put your story around it or not. But it's useful because it gives us almost like a scientific view of ourselves, rather than just our gut feel or what others say about us. It is largely accurate, therefore, in my experience, very, very accurate, but there'll be some nuances about it. There'll be some versions of you that are different to what it's suggesting, because you are you, and someone with the same personality profile is going to have a slightly different shape because of their experience of life, etc. And then these are the kind of 3 different perspectives. So we use self-image and we compare work, mask and under pressure with self-image, because self-image is the core profile we're looking at. But you can see this individual at work is much the same in terms of dominance. But under pressure, they go up a little bit in their dominance. They become a little bit more assertive, competitive under pressure, very normally, I would suggest. Their people skills, you can see this person's not massively people orientated, just below the line, a little bit, marginally introverted, just a little bit away from people. But when they come to work, their eye goes up quite significantly and they move towards people, a great trait to develop. I become more friendly when I come to work. But look what happens under pressure for this individual is they pull back from people and disconnect from people, and that would jar, that would grate. People would feel the difference when you're moving from above the line here on the eye to below the line on the eye. This person in relation to pace is systematic and steady, and they come to work, they speed up a little bit, see this under the line, but then under pressure, look what happens, they slow right down and get tunnel vision and focusing on task and slow right away down. Their pace slows down. Nothing wrong or right, just different. And finally, their compliance. This person's above the line, not too extreme, but just a bit above the line, following the rules, following order. They come to work and surprisingly they follow more of the rules because there's a few more at work than outside of work. But under pressure, look what happens. They drop below the line. They go into emotion. They go into pragmatism and can be a little bit more opinionated. They've not gone right down the bottom here. They're not throwing their toys out of the cot, but they are just under the line, a little bit more pragmatic. So you can see with this individual that their profile changes. But I find a lot of people have a very static, consistent profile. Actually, their self-image, work mask under pressure is very, very similar. It doesn't change. And again, there's no right or wrong. It's just different. So this is the kind of way that your report will look. You'll have your self-image profile up the top here, and you'll have some descriptive text. This is just an example from Thomas International. It's specific, it's detailed. The graph doesn't give us a feel about you. The graph just gives us the snapshot of the image. But the text gives us a feel, and I'll be reading this text out to you to give you a feel. Does this sound like you? Is this how you see yourself? Do other people see you in this way? Or do you see yourself differently. Then we'll move on to work mask, and for this individual, their profile's exactly the same. So you can see the text on work mask is negligible. There's nothing there really because they're the same as self-image. But under pressure, they change marginally. You can see the eye comes down a little bit, but what we need to understand is if the dot moves in the top band, within this top band, or within the bottom band, really nobody's going to notice any difference. It's just you that's going to notice the change. But the minute you move over this middle line, the minute your dot crosses the line, that's when we see significant change. So if you look at this profile, actually it's a consistent profile. Even though there's a little bit of movement on the eye under pressure, it's consistent because actually the eye doesn't cross over the central line. It's complicated stuff this, isn't it? But I hope it's making sense. Here's just 3 other things that you're going to get as part of your report as we come to the end now. The first thing, it's going to give us a little bit of an insight as to what it is that motivates you. Some of the areas that motivate you. You can see this individual's motivated by a social environment in which to work and play. Social activity is really important to this individual because of their high I, their people skills, and they're motivated by public recognition and monetary rewards. This isn't saying this is what you've got. What it's saying is if this person here in this report is starved of these factors, doesn't get these factors, they are going to very quickly become demotivated. Whereas if we apply these factors to this individual, it's like pouring paraffin onto a flame. It just ignites this person. So this person is ignited by public recognition, monetary rewards, and therefore the manager has got some quick and great insight into this person. This person's also got a focus. They're very strong in terms of achievement of accurate results through other people. This is about their job. This is about the kind of job that would fit this person. It doesn't give a specific job title of engineer or nurse or whatever it is, but it gives a form of words that lends you to suggest, would this person be good in this kind of role? And you can look at these words and apply them into your job role and see whether there's a fit, or whether you're almost like a round peg in a square hole, don't quite fit into the role that's there at the moment. Thirdly, there's just a suite of words that the report is going to describe, just some punchy words that will describe this person is outgoing, gregarious, systematic, self-starter, and that's often a really short and punchy way of describing you to see whether you validate that. Occasionally in these final general comments we have some text that the report is very clever at picking up if there's frustrations, and if you're about to move into a job and you've had the PPA done as part of moving into a new job, it may be that the report picks up frustrations because you're in transition, you're moving from one job to another, and unconsciously or consciously that can be picked up by the system as to a hesitant and there's a time, a clock going in the background, and if you delay too much, it's picked up whether or not there's frustrations going on for you. Sometimes it will pick up whether they're of a personal nature or a work nature. So these tests are really insightful into our personalities. Don't fear them, because all it's doing is mirroring back what it thinks you are, and you can agree or disagree and land that with the people in your organisation. So that's the end of this little short video. Just some final quick things to connect you with as I get ready now to meet with you either online or face to face. First of all, I'd really encourage you to come into the session into the right headspace. My experience is that if you've been rushing around at work and you're very quickly putting the camera and online on, or meeting with me rushed, actually it's not a great place for you to absorb some information about your personality. So try and get yourself a couple of moments before we meet. If you can, try and sit at a computer screen. I'm going to send out to you this little test profile shape beforehand. So just take a moment and remind yourself of what's in the D, the I, the S, the C. Try and get yourself a little bit of space, possibly at home or at work, where you're just blocked away. You've got a little bit of quiet to reflect on this. This stuff can be quite heavy, and it's really important that you're not caught up in a process or trying to view these reports on your mobile. So do your best if you can. Come with an open mind. Some people are very cynical about these tests, and that's fine. That's absolutely right. I was one of those cynics at one point. And it's good that we're cynical, that we challenge and we judge these things. But all I can tell you is there's a real space for these psychometrics these days, and so come with an open mind. Be prepared to receive the mirroring of what it thinks your personality is, and then weigh that up after we meet. If you can come with a shape of your profile. Do you remember I asked you to pause the video and almost draw on the screen effectively what you think the shape of your profile is going to be? That would be great if you could bring that with you. As I say, I'm going to mail the guide out to you. If you can bring that along and have that to hand, it's always brilliant if there's any way you can have that on screen as you're talking with me. That's really good. As I say, I'll either see you online or if I get the privilege of meeting you face to face, but much of the debriefs that I do are online these days, post-COVID, etc. And if you want to just find out a little bit more about me so that you know who you're connecting with and you know who this voice is, I've popped myself a little image there so you can see what I look like. But there's a little bit more information about me and my passion and my kind of why, my purpose, and that's listed down there, so you can have a look at the website and find out a little bit more about me if you're interested. But I look forward to meeting with you online. It's going to be a real privilege. It's a strange process where I almost know who you are or bits of who you are before I meet with you, and that can feel awkward and weird, but I don't want it to feel that way. I'm really looking forward to helping you just open the window of your understanding about yourself that little bit more, so that you can use that as a baseline to develop your abilities, your personality, your leadership style, but as importantly, your relationships with people who you know and love. The more we understand about ourselves, and the more we can translate that in our relationships and understanding with others, the better things are going to be, many would say these days. So it's been great to just have this kind of 20-minute video with you, and I look forward to meeting with you soon. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this.